You felt it countless times, that restless itch in your mind demanding explanations, a whispered insistence that every puzzle piece in your life must click perfectly into place. It's as if clarity is some hidden elixir, and until you sip it, nothing feels quite right. We chase narratives, linear plots with tidy beginnings and satisfying endings, because chaos feels like a threat, and control feels like safety. Yet the ironic truth, echoed by thinkers from Kierkegaard to Jung, is that our relentless quest for certainty often pulls us deeper into confusion. In the act of overanalyzing, you trample the very present moment you're desperate to secure. They call it analysis paralysis, but that label barely scratches the surface of a far more profound psychological trap. When you dissect every fleeting thought or split-second decision, replaying conversations in your head, decoding hidden motives, forecasting 20-step futures, you generate mental noise that drowns out your own intuition. Anxiety blossoms in the fertile ground of what-ifs, and the more answers you gather, the more questions you spawn. It becomes a self-perpetuating labyrinth. The mind clutches for meaning, only to find more corridors stretching beyond its grasp. This tension between wanting to know and needing to accept is more than a quirk of modern life. It speaks to a core existential dilemma. In Jungian terms, our animus and anima constantly negotiate between rational understanding and psychic depth, seeking a balance that never fully resolves. As Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Our fixation on intellectual mastery can blind us to the unconscious rhythms that actually steer our decisions, emotions, and sense of self. Rather than inviting insight, overthinking feeds the unconscious beast, empowering its hidden narratives to run the show. True ease, however, isn't about corralling every stray thought or tackling existential riddles head-on. It's about cultivating presence amid uncertainty. Imagine tension easing off your shoulders as you learn to inhabit the spaces between questions. Those moments where life remains ambivalent, unresolved, and raw. Here you cultivate a different form of freedom. One that thrives not on eliminating doubt but on coexisting with it. In the sections ahead, we will first explore the mental trap of overthinking and its roots in our evolutionary need for predictability. Then we'll step into the fog, treating uncertainty as a blank canvas ripe for discovery. And finally, we'll relinquish the habit of self-diagnosis, allowing lived experience to guide growth rather than endless introspection. By the end of this journey, you won't have mapped every twist and turn of your psyche, and that's precisely the point. Because sometimes, the most profound shift happens when you stop trying to solve the puzzle and start learning to dance in the dark. They say the human mind is like a supercomputer, always processing, calculating, optimizing. Yet, unlike silicon circuits, your psyche craves mystery as much as it craves reason. Every time you hunt down a tidy explanation, you risk dulling your capacity to feel spontaneous wonder. Consider the moment you first saw sunlight through rain, that sudden glimmer of color in a passing storm. You didn't stop to jot down the precise refraction angles or catalog the molecular properties of water droplets. You simply paused, dazzled by the beauty of not knowing why. That kind of receptivity, and openness to astonishment, shrivels when the analytical ego tightens its grip, inspecting every miracle like a malfunction. Paradoxically, the less you insist on understanding, the more alive you become to the subtleties that weave through your existence. They've actually tested this in labs. Psychologists observe that individuals primed for certainty, those who force conclusions and crave closure, exhibit reduced creativity, increased rumination, and a diminished capacity for empathy. Meanwhile, subjects encouraged to sit with unresolved questions show greater neural flexibility, more vivid emotional resonance, and perhaps most intriguingly, a heightened sense of meaning in life. This isn't airy New Age fluff. It's hard data confirming what mystics and poets have long intuited, that embracing the unknown awakens deeper layers of consciousness. Your nervous system, when permitted to relax its investigative claws, can finally allocate resources to curiosity, play, and authentic connection. It learns to tolerate ambiguity, and in that tolerance, it discovers resilience. In essence, you stand at the threshold of a transformative practice, learning to breathe in ambiguity and exhale the need for total comprehension. The real work isn't intellectual, it's somatic and emotional. It's retraining your aliveness to trust that life's orchestration doesn't require your constant editorial revisions. Over the next sections, you'll meet 3 perspectives on how to loosen the mind's chokehold. First, by understanding why the brain clings to patterns and how that survival strategy backfires in complexity. Second, by exploring how to relate to uncertainty as fertile ground rather than a threat. And third, by cultivating a gentle witness within, one that sees thoughts as passing weather rather than gospel truth. Through that arc, you'll begin to feel what it's like to inhabit your life from the inside out, less as an anxious detective and more as a present moment participant. And with that practice, you'll discover the paradoxical liberation waiting at the heart of not understanding everything, and the doorway it opens to a richer, more fluid experience of being alive. Section 1. The Mental Trap of Overthinking. You have sat awake at night, your mind looping a single conversation again and again, each replay uncovering a new nuance you missed the first 20 times. You examine every pause in someone's reply, searching for hidden meanings and silences that were never meant to signify anything. You build elaborate scenarios in your head, what they truly feel, what they might do next, how every ambiguous glance could become proof of some grand conspiracy against you. And in that churning storm of mental activity, you convince yourself that if you can just figure it out, the discomfort will abate. Yet, as soon as one theory is tucked away as solved, another question springs to life. Did I really understand their tone? Was my interpretation tainted by my own bias? Before you know it, you're back at the beginning, the problem unmended, your anxiety amplified. They, countless others, are ensnared in the same game. You might watch them on the subway, earbuds in, eyes distant, eyebrows furrowed, as if they are decoding an invisible script that only they can see. Or you glimpse them at dinner, staring at their phones, reading articles about signs they like you, or hidden meanings in texts, desperate to anticipate outcomes. Momentary relief flickers when they latch onto an answer. A neat story that promises stability, but it never lasts. New information arrives in the form of unanticipated text messages, half-remembered comments, or a chance remark from a friend, and the cycle resumes. Their minds chase certainty as though it were an oasis in the desert, only to find it evaporates the moment they draw near. Underneath this relentless pursuit lies the mind's deep-seated addiction to meaning. Evolution wired you to detect patterns, to infer cause and effect rapidly, because slow or inaccurate conclusions once meant danger. But in the modern world, that same drive manifests as mental whack-a-mole. Each time you whack one worry into submission, say the fear that you misread a colleague, the next pops up. What if you offend them tomorrow? What if they decide you're incompetent? This hopping from one anxious thought to the next consumes cognitive bandwidth, leaving you exhausted and less capable of clear, creative thinking. You mistake the mental treadmill for progress, believing that more analysis equals more control, but all you're doing is prolonging the struggle. While the mind convinces you that answers offer protection, the truth is that overthinking is its own kind of torment. It deceives you with the promise of safety. Once you know the reason, you can prevent negative outcomes. Yet, no matter how many times you scrutinize a choice, what to say, how to act, which risks to take, you cannot control the world's infinite variables. Decision paralysis sets in when every option is dissected under a microscopic lens. Every potential mistake looms like a chasm, every unknown looms like a threat. Chronic stress follows as cortisol remains elevated and your body braces for dangers conjured entirely by your own fertile imagination. You feel trapped, as though you must laboriously earn your peace by solving puzzles that have no final solution. And here lies the turning point. The realization that peace is not buried in the next answer but in the grace to tolerate not knowing. When you allow the mind to rest, when you observe anxious thoughts without gripping them, you discover spaces of calm between the mental storms. You begin to see that control is an illusion and that your true power lies in presence, not prediction. In that shift from compulsive analysis to curious acceptance, you unlock the possibility of tranquility. You scan the internet for reassurance, reading article after article on how to stop overthinking, and the one question that will stop your mind from spiraling, hoping that the next insight will finally anchor you. And yet, as you consume more strategies, your mind starts cataloging new bullet points to worry over. Am I applying this technique correctly? What if I misunderstand the author's intention? What if there's a better method out there that I haven't discovered? This quest for the perfect antidote to overthinking becomes, paradoxically, just another form of overthinking. The mind churns not only on life's uncertainties but also on its own remedies. The more you try to silence the internal noise, the louder it seems to grow. They advertise mindfulness apps promising instant calm, and 5-minute meditations that rewire your brain for peace. You download them, set reminders, and dutifully sit through guided breaths, yet as soon as the session ends, your thoughts scatter into a frenzy once more. You wonder whether your failure to remain present is a personal shortcoming, fueling a cycle of self-criticism that deepens the very anxiety you sought to alleviate. Your mind becomes a judge and a defendant in the same trial, as you try to pinpoint where you went wrong. Was your posture off? Did you breathe too shallowly? Was your gaze unfocused? Meanwhile, genuine presence eludes you because the act of monitoring it prevents it. Ultimately, the trap is that overthinking plays on your survival instinct and convinces you that it is indispensable. It whispers, "Stay alert, stay prepared," twisting vigilance into an endless siege. But the siege isn't imposed by external forces, it's self-inflicted. You're guarding a fortress of thoughts, but the real threat isn't outside, it's the barricade you've built around yourself. Every thought scrutinized, every decision overanalyzed, every silence decoded chips away at your ease, at your capacity to engage with life's spontaneous beauty. The paradox is stark. In the bid to protect yourself through relentless analysis, you erode the very sense of aliveness you seek to preserve. Next, you will discover how embracing uncertainty can unlock the most profound form of mental freedom. ChatGPT said, "You feel the urge to control every detail, to peel back the mist obscuring your path, to label and categorize what lies ahead. The fog of uncertainty unsettles you, making each step feel precarious, as if you might stumble into an abyss at any moment. Your mind races to fill the blanks with assumptions and predictions, desperately craving the solid ground of certainty. You believe clarity will bring safety and peace, yet each attempt to force understanding tightens the grip of anxiety. It's as if you're trying to play chess on a board where the pieces keep shifting beneath your fingers, and every calculated move seems futile against an invisible opponent. This craving for control becomes a prison, locking you into a loop of frustration and mental exhaustion. They, in contrast, have learned to see the fog not as a foe but as a natural veil, part of the unfolding mystery of life. They pause instead of panic, embracing the unknown with a quiet curiosity. Imagine walking into a vast, unfamiliar room without a blueprint but allowing your senses to guide you, listening for the creak of floorboards, feeling the drafts that hint at open windows, noticing the faint glow of light through curtains. This is trust without needing every answer beforehand. Science supports this approach. Research shows that individuals who accept uncertainty experience less anxiety and greater psychological resilience. Their nervous systems don't perpetually vibrate on high alert but find rest in the acceptance that some things are unknowable, at least for now. When you practice saying, "I don't know and that's okay," you crack open a door to relief. It's not resignation but an invitation to coexist with not knowing. Slowing your racing thoughts to simply notice the present moment can reveal unexpected insights. In the quiet between thoughts, new perspectives often emerge, unforced and fresh. The fog then transforms from a barrier to a canvas, where possibilities paint themselves in subtle hues rather than harsh outlines. It's like playing a game of chess not against a rigid opponent but against the wind. Sometimes you must let the pieces move in surprising ways, trusting the flow rather than controlling every detail. They trust life's deeper intelligence because they have learned that rigid control is an illusion. The universe doesn't hand out full blueprints. It offers clues, signs, and sometimes silence. The ability to remain steady amid this uncertainty is not weakness but profound strength. It is an attunement to life's rhythms, a dance with the unpredictable rather than a battle against it. You too can cultivate this wisdom by allowing your mind to rest in the unknown, releasing the illusion that clarity must precede action. This trust opens you to experience moments of grace and synchronicity that logic alone could never anticipate. Soon you will explore how this trust extends inward, toward the uncodified, mysterious self that cannot be fully charted or controlled but holds the key to authentic freedom. Section 2. Embracing the fog, trust over control. You brace yourself against the unknown as if it were a storm battering your fragile defenses. Every shadow in the fog feels like a threat to your carefully constructed sense of security. Your mind insists on answers, on control, desperate to piece together certainty from the scattered fragments of your experience. The urge to command clarity overwhelms you, turning uncertainty into an enemy to be conquered rather than a space to be inhabited. Your thoughts rush, trying to fill the void with logic, plans, and predictions, Yet each attempt only stokes the fire of anxiety. You mistake this relentless need to know for strength, not realizing it is the very source of your unrest, binding you tighter to the wheel of worry and mental exhaustion. They have learned a different dance with the unknown, moving not against the fog but with it. They pause and breathe, creating space for the subtle whispers beneath the noise. Like a seasoned sailor navigating by the stars on a cloudy night, they don't need perfect visibility to find their way. They trust the quiet signals, the shift of the wind, the cadence of the waves, rather than demand a map drawn in clear lines. Neuroscience reveals that this acceptance of uncertainty calms the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, reducing the chronic stress response that fuels overthinking. Their ability to sit with ambiguity is not resignation. It is a profound act of courage, opening the door to new perspectives that the frantic mind cannot reach. When you say, "I don't know and that's okay," you loosen the grip of fear. This simple phrase cracks open a space where your mind no longer needs to rush and scurry. It allows your thoughts to slow down and observe rather than attack. In this stillness, unexpected moments arise, insights that feel like light filtering through a dense canopy. You begin to understand that the fog is not a wall to crash against but a veil to look through gently. Like playing chess against the wind, you learn that sometimes the best move is to yield, allowing the unpredictable currents to carry you toward possibilities you hadn't imagined. They trust life's hidden intelligence, understanding that control is a mirage shimmering on the horizon. The universe does not hand out detailed blueprints, but it offers signs, symbols, and silence inviting your interpretation. This trust is not passive but an active choice to release the illusion that you must have every answer before stepping forward. They hold space for mystery, knowing that rigid certainty suffocates growth and creativity. You can cultivate this wisdom too, learning to lean into the rhythm of uncertainty with open hands rather than clenched fists. This shift transforms anxiety into curiosity and paralysis into action. You often find yourself grasping at the edges of uncertainty, desperate to turn the fog of the unknown into something solid, predictable, something you can control. This frantic pursuit feels like battling shadows that slip away just when you think you've caught them. Your mind races to fill the gaps with assumptions and plans, demanding clarity as though it's the only path to safety. Yet every time you try to force certainty, the fog thickens and panic rises like a tide. This need to dominate the uncertain reveals a deep discomfort with vulnerability, an unwillingness to accept that not everything can be tamed or understood at once. You mistake this resistance for resilience, but in reality, it traps you in an exhausting loop of fear and frustration. They approach the fog differently, with a quiet acceptance that transforms confusion into possibility. Instead of fighting the haze, they lean into it, breathing steadily and attuning to the faint signals hidden within the ambiguity. Imagine walking into a dimly lit room without a blueprint. Most would hesitate, overwhelmed by what they can't see. But they move with curiosity, trusting their senses to guide them step by step. This attitude isn't born from ignorance but from a cultivated openness to life's unpredictability. Scientific research supports this approach. Embracing uncertainty activates neural pathways that calm the brain's stress response, leading to greater emotional resilience and cognitive flexibility. They embody this trust, allowing the unknown to be a canvas for creativity rather than a source of dread. When you practice saying, "I don't know and that's okay," you invite your mind to rest from its relentless search for answers. This simple acknowledgement breaks the spell of anxiety by admitting that some questions have no immediate solution, and that uncertainty itself is not a threat but a natural part of existence. In these moments of stillness, your mind begins to slow, and new insights emerge almost effortlessly. It's like walking a chess game where the rules shift with the wind. You can't force every move, but you can respond with grace and presence. This willingness to sit with the unknown opens the door to unexpected clarity and growth, teaching you that true control lies not in certainty but in your capacity to adapt. They trust that life's deeper intelligence weaves meaning beyond the surface chaos. They understand that control is an illusion, a fragile construct that collapses under pressure. Instead of demanding detailed plans or guaranteed outcomes, they read the subtle cues life offers, signs, synchronicities, and intuitions that guide their path. This trust requires courage, a surrender to not knowing that paradoxically feels like strength. It's a dance between surrender and action, a delicate balance where mystery becomes a companion rather than an adversary. This mindset nurtures resilience and peace, enabling them to navigate life's twists with a calm heart and an open mind. The next challenge awaits, moving from trusting life's intelligence to cultivating faith in the uncodified self, the mysterious core of your being that defies logic yet holds the key to your authentic power and freedom. Section 3. Living between control and surrender. You often stand at the crossroads of control and surrender, feeling the tug of both forces pulling you in opposite directions. You want to steer your life with precision, crafting every detail according to your will, yet deep down you sense the futility of such efforts. Your desire to command every outcome clashes with the reality that many elements lie beyond your grasp. This internal battle leaves you exhausted and fragmented, caught in a relentless struggle that wears away your peace. You mistake surrender for weakness, fearing that letting go means losing yourself. But in truth, the refusal to release control is what fragments your sense of self, perpetuating anxiety and disconnection. They have learned to dance gracefully between these polarities, recognizing that life's rhythm demands both holding on and letting go. They understand that control is necessary where it serves growth and responsibility, but surrender is essential when resistance only leads to suffering. Imagine a tightrope walker balancing with focused intention yet remaining flexible enough to sway with the wind. This delicate interplay requires a deep trust in life's unfolding, an acceptance that not everything can be predicted or managed. Their peace arises not from rigid dominance but from an adaptive flow, where power and vulnerability coexist in harmony. The illusion of complete control is a mirage that lures you into patterns of overplanning and hypervigilance, creating an exhausting feedback loop of stress and disappointment. You try to map out every contingency, armor yourself against uncertainty, and micromanage your environment, believing this will shield you from chaos. But each attempt only highlights how little you truly command. This grip tightening paradoxically increases your anxiety and limits your ability to respond creatively to life's surprises. The mind's craving for control becomes a prison, locking you away from spontaneity and authentic experience. They accept that true mastery lies not in domination but in surrender, an active, conscious yielding that frees rather than confines. This surrender does not imply passivity or resignation. Instead, it is a courageous choice to release attachment to fixed outcomes. It opens the door to presence, where you can engage fully with whatever arises without being consumed by fear or resistance. This mindset cultivates resilience, enabling you to navigate uncertainty with curiosity and grace. In surrender, they find an unexpected strength, a power born from trust rather than control. Moving forward, the challenge is to integrate these lessons into your daily life, cultivating a balance where control and surrender are not enemies but allies. This journey requires you to embrace paradox, to live fully in the tension between certainty and mystery. It asks you to redefine power, not as domination over life's events but as mastery of your responses and openness to the unknown. The path ahead beckons you to explore this dynamic balance, discovering the freedom that arises when you stop fighting and start flowing. You might notice how this delicate tension between control and surrender permeates every choice you make, every relationship you navigate, and every moment you encounter. The habitual impulse to control often masquerades as responsibility or care, convincing you that if you just manage enough details, you can avoid pain or failure. But this compulsion to dominate experience often backfires, creating more rigidity and distress. You may feel trapped in a cycle of overthinking and overreacting, exhausted by the very efforts meant to protect you. Yet each time you loosen your grip, even just a fraction, you glimpse a flicker of freedom, a release from the relentless burden of needing to know, to predict, to control. They recognize that surrender is not an endpoint but a continuous practice, an ongoing dance with life's uncertainty. Instead of resisting the unknown, they move with it, adapting as new information emerges and old assumptions dissolve. Like a skilled surfer riding unpredictable waves, they maintain focus and balance while embracing the fluidity of their environment. This balance does not come from passive acceptance but from a grounded awareness that true power emerges when you meet life on its own terms, rather than bending life to fit your fears or expectations. They know that surrender is the gateway to deeper wisdom, creativity, and connection, qualities impossible to access through sheer force of will. When you cling to control, you may miss the subtle signs and invitations life offers, those unexpected moments that could guide you toward growth and healing. Over-controlling narrows your field of perception, blocking out the richness of experience and the possibility of transformation. This mental narrowing is like looking through a keyhole, seeing only a fraction of the room, while the rest remains hidden and inaccessible. But when you begin to surrender, you widen your perspective, opening yourself to a broader, more nuanced view of reality. This openness invites new insights and fosters a deeper trust in your own intuition and inner guidance. They cultivate this trust by regularly practicing small acts of surrender, pausing before reacting, admitting uncertainty, and embracing vulnerability. These moments accumulate, rewiring the brain to tolerate ambiguity and reduce the compulsion for control. Over time, this rewiring lessens anxiety and increases emotional resilience. Rather than being swept away by fear or needing to control outcomes, they develop a grounded presence that allows them to respond with clarity and compassion. This presence is the foundation of authentic strength, a strength that sustains rather than depletes. As you continue this journey, you are invited to explore what it truly means to live in the space between control and surrender. This is not a place of weakness or confusion but a fertile ground where growth, creativity, and freedom converge. You are learning to let go of illusions and embrace the unpredictable flow of life, trusting that you possess the inner resources to navigate whatever arises. The next step in this unfolding is to deepen your connection with your authentic self, the uncodified essence beyond control and surrender, where true liberation awaits. In this intricate dance between the desire for control and the necessity of surrender, you begin to see that the mental trap of overthinking is not just a bad habit but a profound signal. It reveals how deeply you crave certainty and safety in a world that inherently resists both. Your mind's endless search for answers, the ceaseless replaying of conversations and scenarios, reflects a yearning to contain life's chaos within neat compartments. But paradoxically, this very attempt to master uncertainty only intensifies your suffering. You come to understand that peace does not lie in solving every puzzle or answering every question, but in learning to dwell comfortably in the fog, the vast unknown where life's true mysteries unfold. This realization marks a turning point, a subtle shift from exhausting control to embracing trust. Those who have walked this path longer or with greater awareness, model a different approach. They meet uncertainty not as an enemy to defeat but as a blank canvas ripe with possibility. Their strength lies not in their ability to command every outcome but in their willingness to listen, to themselves, to the world, and to the quiet wisdom beneath the surface. Through this practice of surrender, they unlock a deeper intelligence that transcends logic and prediction. It is an intelligence born from humility and presence, allowing them to respond fluidly to whatever arises rather than rigidly enforcing their preconceived plans. Observing their ease in the unknown invites you to cultivate the same courage and openness. You also recognize that embracing uncertainty is not a one-time event but an ongoing practice requiring patience and self-compassion. Each moment of letting go, each admission of "I don't know," strengthens your capacity to tolerate discomfort and builds resilience against the habitual mental patterns that previously held you captive. This practice rewires your brain's response to stress and anxiety, gently dismantling the illusion that you can control everything. In doing so, you reclaim your energy, your clarity, and your freedom. You begin to live more fully in the present, noticing the subtle cues and insights that emerge only when the mind slows down and stops grasping for control. Ultimately, this journey leads you to a deeper trust, not just in life's unfolding but in your own uncodified self, the part of you that exists beyond thought, beyond planning, beyond the mental trap. It is here, in this space of radical acceptance and presence, that true freedom resides. You learn that surrender does not mean weakness or resignation but the courageous act of opening yourself to the unknown, trusting that you are enough as you are. As you prepare to explore this uncodified self in the next section, remember that the paradox of control and surrender is not something to solve but something to live. This paradox invites you to step fully into your life, with all its uncertainty and possibility, ready to meet whatever comes with curiosity and grace.